Ashland Yarns, yeah, you've probably seen on either the website or seen us at a show. We have two main product lines. Krista does all the wool, if you will, and Steve is our partner. Steve Strouse does all of the woodwork. Steve, we're here at your home in Central PA.
Right.
And what we'd like to do is just go through the whole process. Now, one quick question. We're selling shaker boxes that you make. How did you get interested in the shakers?
Mostly just by being involved in woodworking, and when I started my business, became self-employed, someone asked me about making a shaker box, and at that time I had no idea what it was, and
Okay.
tried to make one as a custom order and fell in love with the process.
Is it the challenge of making a shaker box that kind of drew you
I
into
think that's
it?
the biggest thing, and just the way the oval box can show off the grain of the wood then too.
Right.
So between the two different things.
Right. Now, the one thing that we do say quite often, because it's true, is all of your wood is from salvage trees.
Right.
Okay. What does that mean? What is a salvage tree?
Trees that came down from disease or just a person that had to have, like from a construction site. So something that would have normally been cut into firewood. So
How long have you been doing woodworking now?
since 1980, I've actually been involved in at least part-time. I started full-time since 1993.
And how long have you been making shaker boxes?
Since 93, so 6 months into being self-employed is when I started
Okay.
making so
All
that's
right.
really the beginning of my being self-employed was the
Nice.
shaker boxes.
I did pull one board, and I did this because we're going to see the stages once we go inside your workshop. Black walnut?
Right.
Okay. Now, what's the thickness? That's a bit more than an inch.
Yeah, inch and a quarter. Almost everything I have cut is inch and a quarter thickness.
Okay, all right. And this is very rough.
Right.
So
Right.
this has been cut by the Amish mill for you,
Right.
stacked over in the side, and that's it.
Right.
Okay, great. Let's go inside and see what you do with it. All right, see, now I just grabbed a smaller piece of wood. This is really the same exact thing as we saw outside.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Same thickness, same roughness
Rough
that
cut
we
lumber,
had.
yeah.
Right, exactly. Now, what is this machine?
So surface planer. So
Okay.
this is just going to smooth it, take it to a different, whatever thickness you want it. But in my case, on these, all I'm doing is smoothing it up so I can see the grain and have a flat edge to work from.
Okay, now this is a planer,
Right.
and we'll talk in a moment when we get there, but that's a sander.
Right.
Now, a sander is sanding.
Right.
Planing is actually cutting?
Right. So this has blades in, which will actually cut. That has sander rolls that will thickness sand it then.
Got it. Okay, so now, this is a small piece, but we had, I don't know, about an 8-foot
Right.
piece
Use
of
a
black
walnut,
walnut.
yeah.
Would that whole piece go through?
Right. Right.
Okay.
The whole piece goes through. That way I can see the grain. Gives me that flat surface to work from.
Got it. Okay, so now, we're done with the planer.
Right.
Okay. The next step is we're over here, and what do we have?
All right, now I got a radio arm saw, so I'm just going to use this to cut my pieces to length. And you might notice on the roll that I actually have all of my, it says number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have all my measurements laid out. So what I'll do is just square it off and then bring it down to, say this is going to be a number 3 box. Bring it down to the number 3 mark and cut that off.
We've got what we know is going to become a number 2 body, and what we know is going to become a number 2 lid,
Right.
or the bands, okay, not the top and bottom pieces themselves. This has already been set to the desired thickness,
Correct.
and you've added 50 thousandths of an
50 thousandths
inch.
for the sanding, for the thickness
Okay.
sanding to get it down to the proper thickness and then be rid of any of the bandsaw marks.
All right, great.
Sure.
Why don't you rip it through for you?
Okay.
All right, now we're really starting to get a good feel for the grain that's going to come out on this. And when you put it in the water later on, we'll talk about that in a moment. The grain's really going to be getting
Right,
pop
where you're going to
for you,
get a
isn't it?
look for what it's going to look like with the actual finish on. So you're going to always get a little lighter. You can see the grain, but not really popping like it does once it hits the water.
Steve, we've got the wood prepared. Now, they've been soaking in water, 180 degrees.
Right.
For how long?
40 minutes.
40 minutes. Okay. And we had 5 sets in there. So what's your next step now?
So now to bring them out, so I'll get one of the box sides and the lid band.
Okay.
And I'll lift them out of the water. So I pull them out onto here. Make sure I have the face side that I had already picked out.
Right. Now, they do have the holes drilled for the text. And is that what you're using as a guide as you're cutting now?
Right. So I'm using the holes just to center this up. Put a little bit of an angle. Just use a utility knife to cut the angle on it. Give it a nice smooth edge now. And just guide it by the... So when I'm finished up, I do have the center holes on the fingers lined up in the middle, and just about an even amount on each side. So just give it a little bit of a, using the utility knife gives it a nice smooth edge, so there's nothing that needs to be sanded after this.
And boy, the grain really jumps out at you.
Yeah, and especially because of the sycamore with the quarter sawn grain on it. And this is really where you get a look at what the finished product, once it's wet, then the grain shows up the same as it will when the finish is applied.
Right.
So putting them in the water really gives you your first look at what the finished piece is going to look like. The smaller box is like a number 1 box. I keep almost tight. You really sand enough of the box off to make the lid fit nice on a number 1. This being a number 5 has to be a little bit looser to.
And those numbers are the shaker assigned numbers, correct?
Right.
Right.
Right. So they don't actually tell you anything about the dimensions. Just that a 5 is bigger than a 4, and the different villages had, some of them had different molds and slightly different shapes for the boxes, but they always numbered, even their chairs, they number their chair just as a size.
Without the top and bottom, that's what the shaker box will wind up looking like.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, tops and bottoms.
Yeah, so these are the pieces. So I just have these. So what I do with those, same thing. So I'll pull them out, and then I compare the tops, try to match up the grains, how I want the grain to. This one's got a little bit of sapwood, so it probably has a lighter top for it. So there's a top and a bottom set with each one. Have them picked out for the grain, and then it's time to sand those down until they fit inside the top rim and the bottom rim.
And here now, right there, always do that on a shaker box if you're looking at an antique or something like that. You run your hand over that taper. That should be very, very smooth, and that certainly is. You can barely feel it.
Right, and that's what gives you that nice tight fit with the top and bottoms.
And you're looking for daylight, basically, to come in through there. And you don't see a bit of it. That's remarkable, Steve. When we sell your boxes, there's a card in there, and on that card it tells you where that tree came from.
Correct.
And why the tree was down.
Yeah, and what reason it came. A little bit, just something about the history of the piece. And that started really with the first show that I ever went to with my boxes. The first time, trying to find a place to market them.
Uh-huh.
And my love is of the wood, and there are a lot of people that I don't remember, but the trees, I can tell you where each one of these trees came from, a little bit about the history. I just have, for some reason, just the love of the wood and can remember. So I was telling the lady about the cherry tree and where it came from, and after I got through with everything, she said, this is a gift. She said, that's the important part. I want to tell that story. She said, how am I going to remember that? You need to put cards with these boxes. Right. Was the last show that I did without the card. So ever since that, and that's what a lot of people really look forward to the story. I'll see people looking through the boxes to see what what it was made from, but also the story as to where it came from.
When we're doing shows and we're describing the boxes and the use, maybe a yarn box or a sewing box or even an oval, I will lift that off and I will take that card out and say, here's where that tree came. And they all love it. They're very
It's always nice to
appreciative.
have that extra little piece of history with the pieces.
Well, appreciate all the time, Steve, and look forward to selling a lot of boxes. Let's just hope we get back to shows this year. Huh? Yeah, yeah. I'm sure it'll all work out just fine.